Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's telegram_Sam_vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me out on there. But yeah, doing the obligatory end of year favorite releases of 2021. I don't collect a lot of new music, so this was kind of some easy choices for me because I only had about 25 albums that came out this year in my collection. But a lot of great records that I really love, and I haven't seen a lot of other channels talk about in their 2021 end of year recap videos. So I'm excited to share those with you guys. And then in 2 weeks, I'll be doing my favorite used vinyl finds of the year. So this is just new releases, some stuff I really have been enjoying this year. First up, we got the 30th anniversary remaster reissue of Mudhoney's Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge. This thing sounds fantastic. This originally came out in 1991. It comes on this great packaging with this alternate cover. The original cover has the same sort of illustration style, but instead of a plane going down, it's a ship going down. But man, such a killer album of this whole sort of pre-grunge Seattle scene band Mudhoney. They were so influential on bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I even talked about Mudhoney's singer Mark Arm a little bit in the Nirvana video I did a couple weeks ago, about how Kurt Cobain pretty much stole Mark Arm's style of singing and performing, which if Kurt Cobain were alive today, he would probably agree with me. But I love Mudhoney. They're one of my favorite bands. It comes on this great gatefold. Again, great hard rock, punk, indie, grunge. I don't like using that term, but definitely a part of the whole grunge movement in Seattle during that time. This one was 2 LPs. The first LP is a fantastic remaster of the album. It's loud, but it's not too muddy. It sounds fantastic, very clear. And then the second album has some early takes and demos of some songs that are on the album, and also some rare singles that aren't on a lot of other releases. Like famously, they have the song Overblown on here, which was on the single soundtrack, and I think another comp of theirs. But really cool thing to have if you're a fan of Mudhoney or just that late 80s, early 90s hard rock punk thing. Super good. And these came on some killer colored vinyl. The first LP, this is the second LP, comes on this opaque red, and the first LP comes on this baby blue splatter vinyl. Really good, cannot recommend it enough. And these aren't in any particular order, by the way, besides the last records I'm going to show. Just my favorite of the year, no doubt, but everything else isn't in any particular order. Next up, we chose another sort of Seattle-related release. This is A Love Supreme, Alive in Seattle by John Coltrane. I'm not the biggest jazz fan. I still kind of have my training wheels on when it comes to jazz, but this just got me really excited about jazz. Obviously, John Coltrane is such a figurehead in A Love Supreme in general. Is considered one of the greatest jazz albums ever. So it was really cool to hear. I think this is only the second known live recording that John Coltrane ever did of A Love Supreme, and this comes with this great booklet explaining, the history of the album and John Coltrane and all the other players that were in his band during this time, and the crazy story of how this recording was even found. But super cool. The audio on here is really good considering the tape that this recording was on was just in some guy's basement for like 50 years. It sounds pretty good. Just a really cool thing to have if you're into jazz, and it's really gotten me more interested in jazz in general, and really dig it. Next up, we got something I actually just got last weekend. This is Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen. This originally came out in 1984, but this is a fantastic reissue that I think they did for Rocktober, but this reissue sounds fantastic. I've only ever heard this album streaming and on YouTube, and there's so many little subtleties that you miss streaming it compared to listening to on vinyl. When I first put this on, I was like, man, I can't believe I've never heard these little like echoey singing parts that are in the background of a Nocturnal Me or some little things that are on Killing Moon. I mean, this is probably Echo and the Bunnymen's best album, my personal favorite of theirs, and just one of the best of the whole 80s sort of goth, post-punk, new wave British thing that was happening during this time. Such a substantial, great record, and yeah, really good to have a really great sounding copy of this. And the vinyl came on 180 gram vinyl. It sounds superb. Next up, we got an actual album that came out this year, not just a reissue. This is Daddy's Home by St. Vincent. Great album. Actually got turned on to this album because I was seeing a lot of these videos she was doing to promote this album coming out, and I was watching the one she did for Vinyl Me Please, where she was showing records she was listening to in preparation to record this album, and she was showing albums from Yes, Steely Dan, War, Stevie Wonder, and it just got me so intrigued, and I ended up pre-ordering the Urban Outfitters exclusive of this album, and man, this thing does not disappoint. You can obviously hear the influences she got from those bands, but she isn't doing a cheap imitation. She's really turning it into her own thing and adding her own indie rock, art rock thing to it that she was previously known for on her last records. Just so great, so cool. I love this awesome gatefold. She's looking at Playboy magazine, and the Urban Outfitters exclusive came on this sort of smoky, I think it's called cool gray vinyl. Yeah, just so fantastic. Cannot recommend it enough. Next up, we got a hip hop classic here. This is Mad Villainy by Mad Villain, aka MF Doom and Madlib. Just one of the greatest hip hop records ever, in my opinion. Ever since we lost MF Doom last year, Bionic has been doing these really great reissues of his work. This originally came out in 2004, and what I think makes this album so great is that MF Doom as a rapper really understood how important a good producer and a beat maker you need to really enhance your rapping and your lyrics, but to also really set the mood for your album. And also, if you're a good rapper, you'll also make the producer sound good. And he really understood the dynamic of the rapper-producer thing that is so important to hip-hop in making a good hip-hop record as this one. And man, him and Madlib are just the ultimate rapper producer duo ever. There's nothing better than this. If anyone who is not really familiar with hip-hop asks me, oh, what's a great hip-hop record that I should listen to get into the genre, this would probably be my number one recommendation. Just so fantastic. And yeah, MF Doom and the stuff he did with Madlib and other great producers like Czarface is just the greatest ever in hip-hop, in my opinion. And then next up, I know this probably isn't that surprising because I just love this record in general so much, but this is the 40th anniversary reissue remaster of Tattoo You by Rolling Stones. If you guys saw the video, the recent vinyl pickups video I did where I showed this album, you guys know how much I love this album. Tattoo You is my second favorite all-time record ever, and yeah, the remaster on this just sounds so good, so clean, so loud, and plus you also get a second LP that has some other outtakes and rarities on it that's really interesting to listen to. But yeah, I mean, I mainly got this for the record, and it just sounds so fantastic. I actually listened to my original 1981 copy not that long ago, and it sounds so muddy and sort of distorted compared to how clean this remaster sounds. So I'm really excited I got this. And this was the online exclusive edition that came on clear vinyl. Yeah, just so worth it in my opinion if you really love the Rolling Stones and that album in general. Next up, we got Drama of Exile by Nico. This originally came out in 1981. And I think this is the first ever US reissue that has been done since this record came out in 1981. But this third man press sounds amazing. It's super clear. It really enhances the sort of Middle Eastern backing band she had when she recorded this album. Great sort of her art, pop, rock, experimental thing, but she also had that Middle Eastern influence because of her backing band. It's just so good. I mean, I love her album Chelsea Girl, but this is probably my second favorite album of hers. It's just chef's kiss. So good. So good. And she does an interesting version of Waiting for the Man, you know, Velvet Underground song. And she ends the album with a fantastic rendition of David Bowie's Heroes. Just one of the greatest closing songs on an album ever, in my opinion. And that was released through Vinyl Me Please, and they did a 500 or exclusive 500 pressings of this really cool sort of a smoky reddish pink vinyl. It's so pretty. Definitely can't pick up how pretty it is on camera compared to in person, but man, it sounds fantastic. Third Man really did a good job of that pressing. And the next one I showed in my last video. I was so excited that they reissued this. This is Game Dames and Guitar Things by Eddie Hazel. This originally came out in 1977. This is only the second reissue they have done of this album. Even the original 1977 press didn't have that long of a run. It didn't sell well upon its initial release, so they stopped pressing it soon after it was released. And then I think they did another, or in the UK they did a reissue in 2015 and 2016, and this is the second reissue. It sounds fantastic. I mean, I don't have an original to compare it to, but just talking reissues in general, it sounds really good. You can really hear the subtleties of Eddie Hazel's guitar playing, Bootsy Collins' bass playing, and just all the little other production things George Clinton added to it. Just sounds fantastic. And this is actually the first reissue they have done of this album on colored vinyl on this great baby blue. It sounds so good. Cannot recommend this album enough in general. And next up we got a thrash punk classic. This is The Crew by 7 Seconds. This is a remaster of their classic 1984 album. It comes on this great like a hard cardboard sleeve, and on the inside it has this fantastic booklet where you have interviews with the band members Kevin Seconds, Dan Posniak, Steve Youth, and Troy Weimouth, and also you have Jella Biafra, Ian McKay, Fat Mike, Keith Morris, other great guys in the hard rock punk scene talking about them. Just super cool thing to have if you're into the scene. Yeah, I loved this album when I was a teenager and really started getting to hardcore punk, thrash punk, and this is just such a classic. On one LP you have 19 songs, and I think they're definitely less than 2 minutes, but the song Young Till I Die, that is just a hardcore classic. Everyone that is into punk and hardcore knows that song. And the remaster on this sounds so fantastic, so loud, so in your face, but it's loud without being muddy and distorted. Super good, super clean, and these are really cheap. You can find these on Discogs for like $30. It's super worth it. And then last but not least, my all-time favorite releases of this year. I think this has been the common thread in all of our 2021 favorite releases videos. Pretty much everything Neil Young has released, especially part of his archive labels or his archive releases. First off, he released this Way Down the Rust Bucket box set. I think it came out in February or March, but great 4 LPs of a show he did when him and Crazy Horse were getting ready to go on the Ragged Glory tour. They just did sort of a warm-up gig at this Santa Cruz venue, super small venue. This recording sounds fantastic, and they did a lot of sort of deep cut songs in the Neil Young Crazy Horse discography, so it was nice to hear some things that you never really get to hear and play that a lot. Super cool. And then next up we had this fantastic Young Shakespeare. This was just a thing he did in Connecticut for a European TV show, I believe. Literally just him and a guitar singing. The audience is super quiet. The recording on this is just fantastic, super quiet, super well done, and yeah, just Neil Young at his finest. And next up we have the Neil Young, the first in his bootleg series that he's going to be doing is the Carnegie Hall 1970. I mean, it's crazy to think that this is a bootleg. I mean, I don't know how the person that bootlegged this did it, but it sounds so clean, just as clean as this professional recording of Young Shakespeare. And it's really cool because this crowd was quite rowdy, and it's kind of interesting to hear the interactions him and the audience are having, and the audience are just as much a part of this recording as Neil Young is. He was kind of doing a similar thing to Young Shakespeare, where it was really just him and his guitar, and he even did a couple songs on piano on this. Sounds fantastic. It's on 2 LPs, so good. And then I was actually listening to the new album that just came out this last Friday, Barn. I've only heard the first side of it, but it's super good. Just some new material from Neil and Crazy Horse. It has, the rowdiness of the country rock that you're so used to hearing, but it also has more subtler, quieter songs kind of dealing with politics and climate change. The things that Neil Young is really focused on as of recently. But yeah, just everything he does, I'm going to be buying. He really cares about what he's putting out. He's not just putting out stuff to make money. He really makes sure that he's putting out quality stuff for a good, reasonable price. Like, I know before he put Way Down the Rust Bucket, there was a version of Cowgirl in the Sand that was on here, but I guess there was some technical difficulties that were happening when that song was happening during the live performance, and originally was going to be on this set, but they decided to take it out because Neil Young didn't want some half-assed, crappy sounding thing on it, which really shows that he really cares about what he's doing and the quality of what he's doing. I'm sort of glad that he decided to really go into his archives and start releasing some of this stuff rather than waiting until he dies and then just having his estate handle it and kind of just putting stuff out to put it out and not making sure it's being put out the way Neil Young would want it put out. And you kind of see that happening with artists like Prince and David Bowie. His estate is just putting out stuff without any really thinking about the care and consideration Prince and David Bowie would have in releasing these albums. So it's nice that Neil Young is still with us to make sure these archive releases are being put out the way he would want them to. So he's doing such a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see what he releases coming in this next coming year. So yeah, those were some of my favorite releases of 2021. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.